Short intro because I hate delays. Hello, welcome back, and I'm finally here to talk about the Disenchantment Season 5 concept arts that I've been planning for ever since I first watched the show. So much so that I got a Disenchantment notebook. Well, I wouldn't say it's a notebook because it's all blank pages, but it has some of my concept art in it, which contains what would happen in either Seasons 4 or 5. And I know that the trailer for Season 5 just came out, but thankfully I didn't watch it because I just want to keep my concepts a surprise. And it will not be shorter than my previous video. But anyway, are you just trying to get me to talk about Disenchantment Season 5? Because if you are, I will gladly do so. In doodle form, that's right. Since this is a concept art video, this thing is going to be in all doodles. The anatomy might get weird, so please don't judge me. Starting off this list with a very simple headcanon. So do you remember that opening scene in Beanie Get Your Gun, where Oddfall tucks Derek into bed and says shooting stars are angels, plummeting to hell? Yeah, I've thought of it. Let me introduce you all to Oddfall's mother. Now, for starters, she doesn't have a name, but she's your stereotypical mother who would probably sing a lullaby and then say some random quote after or before that. So, yeah, she's that type. Next one is probably a classic. You might have heard of him before, but he's one of a kind. The evil entity. Y'all recognize this man? Of course he was. He was in my old concept video. And here he was in his gotcha design, and I mean, it looks okay. I started coming up with this guy ever since I've thought of Zog's crown, and especially that scene in Bean Falls Down. I pretty much wanted to know the whole story about it. I actually drew him in my notebook, as you could see right here. I planned him to be like this mastermind type villain. I made him the creator of the Og crown, before the antenna thing. But introducing his real form and his real name, Thomas Bradley. And if you had watched my old video, then yes, these two are the exact same person. Also in the notebook, if you will. And this guy has a backstory. He lives in a small village house with his single mother and her niece, meaning that these two are cousins. And the two of them will probably forever remain nameless, until that's for you to decide in the comments below. In the probably outdated video, he was a master of witchcraft. Well, it didn't take 45 years of necromancing to do the job. His mother didn't like the idea of his son becoming a monster, so she tries to make him have different interests, or if you know what I mean. Something like, why can't you be more like your sister, or something like that. And he murdered 2 people with a hammer, and both of them were security guards. I actually made a few variants of this image with like different eyes. I guess it's for like another witchcraft book. I wasn't sure what to make of that, so I just left it there. And surprisingly, he was never caught for this murder. A double murder, I meant. And his mother started to get worried about him, so he ran away from home. Tries to find a place to stay, and then this is where the corruption starts. Remind you, he was 18 at the time. Yes, I bet these characters canonically have ages. Headcanon video coming up pretty soon, I promise. So those were all the concepts from 2021. They were pretty good, and thankfully I memorized them, like, one by one. I actually have more lore on Thomas Bradley / the evil entity's backstory. And it's gonna get exciting, and I saved 4 more characters for this list, but don't worry, we'll get there soon. After rewatching Season 4 last year, I immediately started making that infamous meme of Bean and Mora, and I thought of, oh, Mora is so worried about Bean not waking up after what happened with Dagmar. And so she wakes up, and then they reunite at Mermaid Island. Hooray! And that's when I literally started bursting out with ideas. And also, shout out to Sadie Disenchantment for almost waiting impatiently, but I got her comment on YouTube Studio. May I remind you that this is one of the first concepts that actually act like a fully developed episode of the actual show. But let's not waste our time and get off track and start, shall we? The episode starts us off with Bean waking up on Mermaid Island to find Mora, and happily reunited. Bean tries to find out what happened while she was unconscious when her and Mora start up a conversation, and then she remembers, and then she tries to find her way back to Dreamland, but all hope is lost. But she doesn't give up quickly. She tries to find a boat, but then she gives up, taking Mora's advice. How about we pause for a quick trivia moment? What was the first Drawfee video I've watched on their channel? Time's up. It was the one where they draw Disenchantment characters. And I've thought of Tuscamer would be an official character in the 5th season. Or later seasons. Yeah, anyways, moving on. It then cuts to the freak show where everyone is being gawked at, including my boy. But it was just for a short time, because they throw baseballs at him. One of them missed. And then one of them hits in the chest. He starts to feel something. By the moment he was hit, he starts to notice some black ooze coming out of his mouth, and he starts violently coughing some more until it immediately gets worse, and then he turns into this demonic form of a person. And while being possessed by this creature, he's actually very helpful. He decides to get rid of P.T. McGee, thankfully, and steals the keys from one of his pockets, and frees everyone. And then he hears a British voice, and it turns out to be Merkimer. I think the reason that Merkimer wasn't in season 4 is that I think he was in the freak show. He frees him, and after this giant massacre is over, we are introduced to another character, the Solemn Demon, which is also a species of demon. Let's say that they're different from the usual Disenchantment demons. I'm looking at you, Lucy. See, Solemn demons are a different type of demons. Let me summarize. Just like with the OGs, they also come from hell. But it's more different than you imagine. The Solemn demons are like one of those boos that you put in Mario Maker that appear on the ground or on the ceiling. You know, those type of demons. And also, the reason why he was possessing Oddball in the first place is that he actually came from a corpse. And the reason why its color scheme is so familiar is that it actually came out of the corpse of Stryker. Yes, Stryker is dead, don't judge. Also forgot to mention that Solemn demons are nameless. So let's go on a few recaps. Solemn demons are nameless, they're invisible on floors and ceilings, they secretly sneak into people to possess them, they come out of a literal carcass of a deceased person that matches their exact location that they died in. Not to mention, after they come out of the corpse, they are brought back to life. And they also shapeshift into the opponent they possessed. So when they free everybody, except for Freckles, thankfully, they all decide to go home, but they're introduced to the Solemn Demon that was inside Oddball.